it could be the start of a domino effect to worse. New Corsidil Active Gum Repair actively helps repair gums from 1 week. New Corsidil Active Gum Repair.
G'day there. Heard the buzz about Aussie 3-Minute Miracle? Don't just take our word for it. Ooh, what conditioner is this? Everyone is talking about Aussie 3-Minute Miracle. That's when Aussie tames any mane. Awesomely conditioned hair. From Aussie. No wonder Aussie's the UK's #1 conditioning treatment. Aussie, have you tried it yet?
At Nurofen, we know demanding lives can cause headaches. But pain should never be in charge of your day. Unleash the speed of liquid with Nurofen Rapid Relief Liquid Capsules. You do the full-on day, we'll do the fast-acting pain relief.
Bain fearna cuidú le banó go tá géirí an dúláán a chruthíonna cos prostetachtaí a chorú in the Big Life Fix of go fiche chuna de. Inis leanna mar rá leis an scéil Stainey ó ifigí an réaltais sa nuacht áléimh ag Eileen Whelan.
Welcome to the 1 o'clock news. The headlines this Wednesday lunchtime. Leo Varadkar has announced he's stepping down as Taoiseach and Fine Gael leader for personal and political reasons.
Politicians are human beings and we have our limitations. We give it everything until we can't anymore, and then we have to move on.
The resignation is not expected to trigger a general election, as Micheál Martin says he and Eamon Ryan remain committed to the continuation of government.
This is a coalition of 3 parties, not personalities, and I remain committed to the continuation of government.
And Limerick hurler Kyle Hayes has been given a 2-year suspended sentence and ordered to pay €10,000 compensation after being convicted of violent disorder last year. Leo Varadkar is to step down with immediate effect as Fine Gael leader and will resign as Taoiseach when a successor is appointed. In a shock announcement at government buildings in the past hour, Mr Varadkar, who became visibly emotional as he spoke, said that he was resigning for personal and political reasons. He said he didn't feel he was the best person for the job anymore. His resignation as Fine Gael leader is effective from today, and he will step down as Taoiseach when a successor is selected.
When I became party leader and Taoiseach back in June 2017, I knew that one part of leadership is knowing when the time has come to pass on the baton to somebody else, and then having the courage to do it. That time is now. So I am resigning as President and Leader of Fine Gael effective today, and will resign as Taoiseach as soon as my successor is able to take up that office. I've asked our Party General Secretary and Executive Council to provide for the new leader to be elected in advance of the Ardèche on Saturday, April 16th, thus allowing a new Taoiseach to be elected when the Dáil resumes after the Easter break. I know this will come as a surprise to many people and a disappointment to some, and I hope at least you will understand my decision. I know that others will, how shall I put it, cope with the news just fine. That is the great thing about living in a democracy. There's never a right time to resign high office. However, this is as good a time as any. Budget 2024 is done. Negotiations have not yet commenced on the next one. The institutions of the Good Friday Agreement are working again, and our trading relationship with the UK in the post-Brexit era is settled and stable. The new Taoiseach will have a full 2 months to prepare for the local and European elections, and up to a year before the next general election. My reasons for stepping down are both personal and political. I believe this government can be re-elected, and I believe my party, Fine Gael, can gain seats in the next Dáil. Most of all, I believe the re-election of this 3-party government would be the right thing for the future of our country, continuing to take us forward, protecting all that's been achieved and building on it. But after careful consideration and some soul-searching, I believe that a new Taoiseach and a new leader will be better placed than me to achieve that. To renew and strengthen the team, to focus our message and policies, to drive implementation. And after 7 years in office, I don't feel I'm the best person for that job anymore. There are loyal colleagues and good friends contesting local European elections, and I want to give them the best chance possible. And I think they have a better chance under a new leader. I am standing aside in the absolute confidence that the country and the economy are in a good place, and that my colleagues in government from all three parties, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and the Greens and the Oireachtas, will continue to work hard for the nation's best interests. On a personal level, I've enjoyed being Taoiseach, leader and a cabinet member since March 2011. I've learned so much about so many things, met so many people who I'd never have got to meet, been to places I would never have seen, both home and abroad. And I am deeply grateful for it. And despite the challenges, would wholeheartedly recommend a career in politics to anyone who's considering it. However, politicians are human beings and we have our limitations. We give it everything until we can't anymore, and then we have to move on. I will of course continue to fulfil my duties as Taoiseach until a new one is elected, and will remain as constituency TD for Dublin West. I know inevitably there'll be speculation as to the quote-unquote real reason for my decision. These are the real reasons. That's it. I have nothing else lined up. I have nothing in mind. I have no definite personal or political plans. But I'm really looking forward to having the time to think about them. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my party, my coalition partners, particularly Micheál and Eamon, my constituents, colleagues and staff for their loyalty and their phenomenal work, and I'm going to thank them all in person in the near future.
Leo Varadkar there announcing his resignation. Well, we're joined now by our political correspondent Micheál Lehane. Micheál, to call it a surprise is probably an understatement. This really was a shock announcement, wasn't it?
It's a seismic political announcement. I suppose you could look to a few things. You could look to those recent referendum results. You could look to the reality that so many Fine Gael TDs are not contesting the next election, and there was a major challenge facing the party in the local and European elections. But I think it would have been expected that the rough and tough time for Leo Varadkar would have been in the aftermath of those elections. But he's gone early, feeling that he is no longer the one or the right person for that job, and to give a new Fine Gael leader and a new Taoiseach the chance to do so. It hadn't been expected. There were senior party colleagues who had spoken to Leo Varadkar last night about government business and didn't get an indication of this. I suppose there was something in his political personality that would always allow for a day like this too. He was always adamant too. He wouldn't stay in politics beyond 50, and he's been true to his word on that one, it seems. I suppose the race is on now to find the new Taoiseach. Already the name Simon Harris seems to be the most prominent one, and that will all be decided before the Fine Gael Ardèche in the middle of next month. So it is all going to happen fairly quickly. There will be questions from the opposition, though, about the legitimacy of the government now and whether or not they have a mandate. They insist they do.
And Micheál, what's been the reaction then in political circles to this announcement?
There has been surprise. I think when the Dáil resumes in the next while, the focus will be on the government saying that it wants to run its full term now. That's something that Taoiseach has said. It wants to go till 2025. There will be multiple calls for an election. Heather Tobin, the N2 leader, saying the role of Taoiseach cannot be passed around like snuff at a wake. I think there's going to be more of that, and the calls for an election will intensify. And
Micheál, was that a surprise statement by Leo Varadkar there when he's looking to people contesting elections and saying that they will have a better chance with someone else as leader?
There's no doubt that Leo Varadkar, when he became leader, was hailed by his supporters as someone who would sprinkle magic dust across Fine Gael, give them that edge when it came to elections. By and large, it didn't happen. Was there any indication that it was going to happen in the local and European elections? Judging by the referendum result, which did spook government, there certainly wasn't an indication of that. At the same time, I think there was an expectation that he would have seen things through until that point, but he hasn't. He hasn't done so. He says it is part of leadership to know when to pass on the baton, and that's what he's doing. Is it surprising? It really is.
All right, Micheál Lehane, thank you. And we'll have more from Micheál later in the bulletin. Now, Mr Varadkar's fellow coalition party leaders, Micheál Martin and Eamon Ryan, were briefed by the Taoiseach yesterday evening in relation to his plans. The Taoiseach said that he was surprised, while Mr Ryan said he regretted the move but understood the decision.
Last evening, the Taoiseach briefed myself and Eamon Ryan in relation to his plans. To be honest, I was surprised, obviously, when I heard what he was going to do. But I want to take the opportunity to thank him sincerely. We got on very well. We had a strong personal relationship. The three leaders had, which I think was important in terms of the continuity and stability of the government. And I want to take this opportunity again to wish Leo the very best in his personal life and in his career into the future. Could I further say that from my perspective, this is a coalition of three parties, not personalities, and I remain committed to the continuation of government, to the fulfilment of our mandate, and to the implementation of the programme for government.
I think it was similar, what Taoiseach said, is similar to what he said there in that statement in front of government buildings. It was for both personal and political reasons. I think, and I think it is what he said. He's been 14 years in office, 7 years as leader of Fine Gael, and Taoiseach now for 4 or 5 years. And I think that can be demanding time, a long time. And I think it's for personal, more than political reasons, that I think he does want to step down. And we obviously accepted that, regretted it, but understood it. And we will. I think our job is to make sure we continue to provide for the people of our country through our mandate, working with whoever replaces the Taoiseach from Fine Gael. I think we can and will do that. I think we've shown real strength and solidity as a government. We have differences. We have very strong differences, but we've been able to manage them. And I look forward to working with whoever Fine Gael selects as their nominee for Taoiseach in doing that in the interests of the people of our country.
Green Party leader Eamon Ryan there. Well, for more on this, we're joined now on Zoom by Professor of Law and Government at DCU, Gary Murphy. Gary, what's your feeling on the reasons for Leo Varadkar's decision to resign and the timing of the announcement?
Well, first on the timing, Eileen, I think it's extraordinary that it is so late in the electoral cycle. I mean, the Taoiseach mentioned that the new Fine Gael leader would have plenty of time, 2 months before European and local elections. But 2 months in electoral cycle is nothing really. And I think it'll be a very difficult election for the new leader. And within 10 months, maybe 11 maximum for a general election, again, is a very short time. I mean, in one way, this is an extraordinary day in Irish politics. I can't remember a Taoiseach resigning so late in the electoral cycle. So politically, I think it's very difficult for Fine Gael. On a personal level, I think one would have to have a heart of stone not to have some sympathy for the Taoiseach, especially when his voice broke towards the end of his press conference. It's a very difficult day for him. Remember, he was one way the great boy wonder of Irish politics, but it's all ending rather tragically, I think.
And what will you see as the wider political fallout from all of this, and indeed who's likely to replace Leo Varadkar as leader of Fine Gael?
Yeah, I mean, Fine Gael have been in power since 2011, which is a very long time. They've never won 4 elections in a row or been in power after 4 successive elections, as they are going for at the next time. Simon Harris would, I think, give a certain injection of youth, but Leo Varadkar was supposed to give an injection of youth as Fine Gael's youngest ever leader in 2017, and that didn't happen. And perhaps they might go safe and look at someone like Simon Coveney, who was defeated by Leo Varadkar back in 2017, or perhaps Paschal Donoghue, although Paschal was in charge, Director of Elections, during the 2020 election, which Leo Varadkar, I think, basically failed as leader of Fine Gael in that election. It was a very difficult election for Fine Gael. In fact, he hasn't been a very lucky leader electorally for Fine Gael, and I think it's in a very difficult position now with this shock and sudden resignation.
All right, Professor Gary Murphy from DCU, thank you for joining us on the 1 o'clock news. Now, still to come on the lunchtime news, we'll have more on Leo Varadkar's surprise decision to step down as Taoiseach and leader of Fine Gael.
And Another season dawns with stories in you.
There is a feeling that today is the day.
Moments to witness, breaking through.
Sam Monaghan, and off they go again to John Gag. Fabulous try for Ireland.
Whistle to whistle.
Trying to get there. She's down. Ireland have won it at the 10th.
Passion renewed. The Women's Six Nations Championships. Moments are made.
You watch your speed, driving down my road. Pass a bike
By the old canal.
whistle and cakes on the streets all day.
Dirty gay town. Dirty gay town.
I walk my dog in the afternoon.
Hear a bird.
You watch your speed.
By my garden wall.
Dirty gay town.
Feels good to drive at 30k.
Hey, if you're bored, you can give me a hand with the shopping.
Lovely weather we're having. Heard it's gonna rain tomorrow. Typical on me day off.
Feed their imagination by making real savings at SuperValue with price cuts on hundreds of products like these. Plus, save even more with weekly vouchers on the Real Rewards app.
Sharon, can we get a price check for the bananas?
Make real savings every week at SuperValue.
Welcome back to the 1 o'clock news, and our main story this lunchtime is, of course, Leo Varadkar is to step down with immediate effect as Fine Gael leader and will resign as Taoiseach. He was first elected in 2007 and has previously said he would not stay in politics beyond the age of 50.
Leo Varadkar took over as Fine Gael leader in 2017, but he joined the party nearly 20 years earlier while studying to be a doctor.
If I was ready in 10 years' time, I'd like to be in Leinster House.
The son of a nurse born in Waterford and a doctor born in India, in 2007 he was elected to the Dáil at the age of 28, becoming an outspoken new TD.
You're a Gareth Fitzgerald. You've doubled you've tripled the national debt. You've effectively destroyed the country. It's the last thing you do. So enjoy writing your boring articles in the Irish Times in a few years' time.
Despite backing the losing side in the heave against Enda Kenny, he was elevated to cabinet.
Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport.
Moving later to the Department of Health and then Social Protection. He backed Garda whistleblowers at a time of major controversy.
There have been many words to use to describe their actions in recent months, but if I was to use one word, the word I would use is distinguished.
Leo Varadkar played a key role in the same-sex marriage referendum a few months after he came out as a gay man. By 2017, he was clearly aiming to lead Fine Gael.
But I have absolute confidence that he will know when the right time is to go for him, for the party and for the country.
A leadership race followed, with Leo Varadkar running a slick campaign. He emerged triumphant, paving the way for his ascent to the highest political office. 10 years after he was first elected to the Dáil, Leo Varadkar became Ireland's youngest ever Taoiseach.
The government I lead will be one of the new European centre, as we seek to build a republic of opportunity, and that is a republic in which every citizen gets a fair go and has the opportunity to succeed.
He was hailed internationally as he represented the country abroad. An early highlight was the Brexit deal, safeguarding the Irish border, an achievement he hung his hat on.
They are politically bulletproof, they're cast iron. If you see the language that's there in the paragraphs, it talks about commitment to avoiding a hard border.
But there were controversies too, including one which nearly brought down the government, and the cervical check failings were a low point of his premiership.
We are sorry for the failures of clinical governance, sorry for the failures of leadership and management,
Sorry for the failure to tell the whole truth and to do so in a timely manner.
And he had to row back on a promise made to women affected. There was also major social change with the passing of the referendum to repeal the Eighth Amendment, paving the way for wider access to abortion.
What we've seen today really is a culmination of a quiet revolution that's been taking place in Ireland for the past 10 or 20 years.
In 2020, he led Fine Gael into a general election campaign that sought to capitalise on his image. But his party finished behind Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin. Accepting defeat, he resolved to go into opposition. The pandemic hit, and the caretaker Taoiseach made the first of many addresses to the nation, ushering in unprecedented restrictions on people's lives.
And it's going to involve big changes in the way we live our lives.
After months of talks, he brought Fine Gael into government with the old Civil War enemy and the Green Party, serving as Taoiseach to the Fianna Fáil Taoiseach. In December 2022, Leo Varadkar returned to the office of Taoiseach as part of the coalition agreement, a period which saw the relaxation of COVID-19 restrictions, but world events soon dominated much of his domestic challenges. The war in Ukraine resulted in over 100,000 refugees arriving here, and more recently the crisis in Gaza saw the government's position come under scrutiny, some praising Ireland's response, others calling for the government to take a firmer line against Israel. Tommy Meskel, RTE News.
Well, for more reaction to Leo Varadkar's announcement, we're joined now by Sinn Féin's Foreign Affairs spokesperson, Matt Carty. Matt, you're as surprised as everyone else, I presume. What's your reaction? Will Sinn Féin be hoping this will lead to an early general election?
Yes, I think the people should decide who the next Taoiseach is, not a small number of Fine Gael TDs and senators. So it is crystal clear in our minds that there is an absolute need for a general election now. I think the need for change has been well understood, well accepted for a long time. Fine Gael have been in government for far too long. They have presided over a housing crisis that has got worse. They have presided over a crisis in our health and disability services that have gotten worse, and they have failed to tackle the cost of living crisis that many of our workers and families are going through. So it's time for a new direction, a fresh direction. We need a change of government, not just a change of Taoiseach.
In terms of Leo Varadkar's speech, what was your reaction to that?
Look, on a personal level, of course, we wish Leo Varadkar well, but I think the defining moment of Leo Varadkar's time in government is the fact that when he came into government, when Fine Gael came into government, Ireland had among the highest rates of home ownership across Europe. We're now at the lowest end of that tier. The housing crisis has got worse every single year that Fine Gael have been in government, and it is clear to us that there is a need for a change of direction, and we need more than just a change of Taoiseach, we need a change of government.
OK, Sinn Féin's Matt Carty, thanks for joining us on the 1 o'clock news. Now let's get some more opposition reaction to Leo Varadkar's decision.
I was shocked when I heard the news, but on the whole, I suppose it's not that surprising. I think this government's record is one of failure on so many issues, on health, on housing and climate, and I think the Taoiseach can see that too. But ultimately, I don't think his decision will instil confidence in the public, in the coalition's ability to move forward and keep going. So I think it raised a lot of questions, and I don't feel that a new Fine Gael Taoiseach is the answer to those issues affecting people every day. I think ultimately we need a new government. I think we need a general election.
It was certainly a surprise to all of us, and I think notably it was clearly a surprise to the other party leaders in this coalition government. And I think the Taoiseach Micheál Martin's admission that he was very surprised when the Taoiseach told him last night that he would be stepping down, I think that perhaps says it all. This is deeply destabilising, David, and I think it's utterly untenable that we would see this government continue. We've had 2 rotating Taoiseach already. Now Fine Gael are proposing that they should decide who the next Taoiseach is, that members of Fine Gael should decide that, when patently, at a time of such unprecedented challenges, particularly on housing, patently it is the people and not members of Fine Gael who should now decide who leads the country through these challenges.
The people of this country will, I think, respond by saying not just should Leo Varadkar step down, but that they have lost the confidence in this government. government doesn't look like it has much confidence in itself, and that it is now time for a general election. Because what people want is a resolution to the things the government have failed them on, particularly the really disastrous housing crisis, the desperate situation in our health service, the failure on issues like special needs and disability. And I think with this decision, the government should just accept that it is time for the people to decide who will be the next government and give them the option to have a different approach to solve the problems that people really care about in this country.
Now, Leo Varadkar has served as TD for the Dublin West constituency since 2007. Our reporter Diane Connor is in Castleknock this lunchtime. Diane, what's been the reaction there so far today?
Well, it's fair to say there is huge shock here in Castleknock, and for many people that I spoke to, when I asked them about it, it was actually the first time that they had heard it. So the news, it's really only beginning to trickle out here in the last half an hour, 40 minutes. Now, I spoke to one lady and she said she was only watching him on a TV programme last week and thought to herself how down-to-earth and a dedicated politician, and she was very, very surprised to hear that he has resigned as Taoiseach and Fine Gael leader today. Another woman said she thought he was a lifelong politician, so was incredibly shocked to hear the news. And another woman I spoke to said on one hand she was surprised, but on the other hand she wasn't. She said given that the level of abuse and criticism that politicians get, she said she wouldn't take the job as Taoiseach as a present. Also, I spoke to a man who said he went to primary school with Leo Varadkar, and he said he has served the constituency very, very well, and he is very surprised to hear this. But while he is resigning as a Taoiseach and leader of Fine Gael, he is staying on as a TD for the Dublin West area and will continue to serve the constituents here.
All right, Diane Connor in Leo Varadkar's Dublin West constituency. Thank you. Now, in other news this lunchtime, Limerick hurler Kyle Hayes has been given a 2-year suspended prison sentence after being convicted last December of 2 counts of violent disorder. He's also been told to pay €10,000 in compensation to a man who suffered serious facial injuries during incidents inside and outside a Limerick nightclub in 2019.
25-year-old Kyle Hayes was found guilty last December of 2 counts of violent disorder and acquitted of an assault charge. The charges arose from incidents inside and outside the Icon nightclub in Limerick in the early hours of October the 28th, 2019. Young carpenter Killian McCarthy was set upon in the nightclub that date after Kyle Hayes took exception to Mr McCarthy talking to 2 women known to Kyle Hayes. Killian McCarthy was also attacked outside the nightclub on the street. He suffered serious facial injuries. Judge Dermot Sheehan said today the evidence was that Killian McCarthy was punched in the nightclub around the face and head by Kyle Hayes. The second incident of violent disorder was on the street when one group of men attacked Killian McCarthy and another group, including Kyle Hayes, attacked another man and punched him and kicked him on the ground. Limerick senior hurling manager John Kiley said during a previous hearing that Kyle Hayes' behaviour at the time was disappointing, but he had since matured and was now somebody he trusted. The judge said he couldn't ignore Kyle Hayes' role in the 2 incidents of violent disorder and that his behaviour was dangerous and significant. He imposed an 18-month prison term for the offence in the nightclub and a 2-year term for the offence outside, both to run concurrently. Judge Sheehan said that given Kyle Hayes' age, his previous good record and the fact that he'd proven himself since the incidents occurred, it would not be appropriate and would not benefit society to impose an immediate custodial sentence. However, he said that Killian McCarthy had suffered significant injury as a result of the incidents and ordered Kyle Hayes to pay €10,000 in compensation to Killian McCarthy. The judge suspended both prison sentences for 2 years, ordering Kyle Hayes to keep the peace during that time. Conor Kane, RTÉ News at Limerick Circuit Criminal Court.
Well, let's go back to our main story now, the resignation of Leo Varadkar as Taoiseach and Fine Gael leader. Let's cross over to Micheál Lehane. Micheál, bring us up to date on the latest reaction, please.
There's been a lot of reaction, and you can hear it from the opposition, really clear in their view that this government has now lost its legitimacy. But it does have a majority, it does have the votes, and I suppose the next stage now is interesting because tonight the Fine Gael National Executive Council will meet. They will set in place the rules for a leadership contest, and that will conclude by the 6th of April in time for the Fine Gael Ardèche. And that all means if everything runs along those lines and there is a contest, well then a new Taoiseach could be elected by the Dáil on April 9th. So already thoughts turning in that direction after what has been a huge political announcement here this morning.
All right, Micheál Lehane at Leinster House, thank you. And of course, we'll have lots more on Leo Varadkar's resignation on our bulletins throughout the day. But for now, from the 1 o'clock news, good afternoon.
There's nothing better than a getaway with friends.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. Now, our weather continuing generally unsettled for the rest of the week, becoming colder from Friday too. Conditions improving today as sunny spells develop. Enjoy it if you can. A cloudier day tomorrow, breezy too, with outbreaks of rain and drizzle before that colder weather starts to set in on Friday. It'll also be sometimes windy with showers too. So this morning, almost all of the rain cleared from the southeast and east. We'll see sunny spells develop more widely through our afternoon and evening, so pleasant conditions. And this is with temperatures of 9 to 13 with light to moderate breezes. Picking up though in strength overnight, becoming moderate to fresh for most areas, although occasionally strong through the west and northwest. We'll have lowest temperatures of 2 to 6. Our weather becoming quite cloudy overnight, and by tomorrow morning outbreaks of rain and drizzle will have pushed into parts of Ulster and Connacht, and that will become widespread by tomorrow morning and also into the afternoon. Things though beginning to brighten up through the northwest later tomorrow evening, certainly starting to dry out there as our winds remain moderate to fresh, but at times still strong through parts of the west and northwest. A little increase in those temperatures for Thursday, up to 15, but dropping back to about 8 or 9 on Friday. So a colder, brighter but blustery day. There'll be showers initially through the west and north, then though becoming more widespread, and at times they could be heavy. There is also the chance of hail. I leave you now with your 5-day summary chart. Many thanks for watching and good afternoon.
Thank you so much. I am so excited for this.
There's nothing better than great company in the culinary city of Cork.
Coming up on the show, have you got unidentified antique treasures in your home? We've got expert advice on how to tell an original from a reproduction and what it might be worth. Plus, it's National Puppy Day. We'll see you at 3:30.
Get Easter off to a cracking start with value that saves you shelling out. Butter up your buns for less and sip up the savings.